Writing. My beloved child. Pause here for a moment, because what you are about to hear did not arrive by accident. There is a reason your eyes found these words tonight. There is a reason your spirit suddenly feels restless. And there is a reason heaven would not allow you to scroll past this message. Something happened at 3 a.m. Not yesterday by coincidence. Not as a random event lost in the darkness of the night. Something shifted in the unseen realm while most of the world was sleeping peacefully, unaware that a soul connected to yours was breaking apart under the weight of emotions they could no longer hide. Your soulmate could not stop crying. And the strangest part is, they did not fully understand why. They tried to calm themselves down. They tried to breathe normally. They even whispered to themselves that everything would be okay. But the tears kept falling as if their spirit had reached a point where silence was no longer possible. Their chest felt heavy. Their hands trembled. Their thoughts became louder than the night around them. And your name, your energy, your presence, it kept appearing in their heart again and again. Listen carefully, beloved, because what I am about to reveal runs deeper than ordinary emotion. This is not just sadness. This is not just loneliness. What took place at 3 a.m. was the collision between memory, destiny, fear, and divine timing. For weeks they have been pretending to be strong. Pretending they are unaffected. Pretending they have moved forward. But heaven sees what people hide behind closed doors. Heaven hears the cries people bury beneath fake smiles. And while everyone around them believed they were fine, the truth is that your soulmate has been carrying an emotional storm inside them for a very long time. A storm connected to you. Something inside them began changing recently. Quietly. Slowly. Almost invisibly. At first they ignored it. They distracted themselves with work, conversations, noise, and responsibilities. But late at night, when the world became still, your energy reached them in ways they could not explain. They started thinking about moments they tried to forget. They started remembering words that once seemed small but suddenly felt enormous. They started questioning decisions they once defended. And then came last night. The moment heaven allowed the walls around their heart to crack open. Do you understand how rare that is? Some souls spend years running from their emotions. Some spend entire lifetimes hiding from truth because truth demands surrender. But at 3 a.m., your soulmate reached a point where their spirit became too exhausted to keep pretending. The tears began unexpectedly. One memory triggered another. One thought unlocked 10 more. And before they realized what was happening, they were sitting alone in the darkness, crying so deeply it felt as though their soul itself had been wounded. But this is where the mystery becomes even more intense. Because while they were crying, something else happened. They felt you. Not physically. Not through a message. Not through a phone call. But spiritually. It was as if your soul brushed against theirs for a brief moment in the unseen realm. And when it happened, the tears became impossible to stop. My child, there are connections heaven creates that human logic cannot fully explain. There are souls tied together by lessons, healing, timing, and divine purpose. And whether people accept it or not, the spirit recognizes what the mind tries to deny. Your soulmate has been fighting this connection harder than you realize. Not because they hate you. Not because they forgot you. But because this connection scares them. You awaken parts of them they cannot control. You force them to feel things they buried long ago. And most importantly, you make them confront the truth about themselves. That is why they run hot and cold. That is why confusion surrounds them. That is why sometimes they seem distant, only to suddenly feel emotionally close again. Their soul knows something their mind is still struggling to accept. And last night, that inner battle became overwhelming. At exactly 3 a.m., they woke up suddenly. No alarm. No sound. Just an unexplainable pull. Their heart was racing before their thoughts even became clear. For a moment they sat there confused, staring into the darkness as though someone invisible had called their name. Then came the feeling. Heavy. Sharp. Emotional. A wave of sorrow mixed with longing crashed over them so intensely that they had to sit upright just to breathe properly. And this next part matters deeply, so listen closely. The first thing they thought about was you. Not intentionally. Not because they planned to. Your energy simply arrived in their heart before anything else did. That terrified them. Because they had spent so much time convincing themselves they were emotionally detached. They kept telling themselves they had control. They kept trying to silence the connection. But in that sacred hour of the night, when honesty becomes unavoidable, their soul betrayed every lie they had been telling themselves. And they broke down. Tears falling endlessly. Hands covering their face. Trying not to make noise. Trying not to admit what their heart already knew. Do you know what hurts them the most? It is not only missing you. It is realizing how deeply they may have misunderstood this connection from the beginning. There are words they wish they could take back. Moments they replay repeatedly. Choices they now question in silence. And there is one memory in particular that has been haunting them recently. A memory they cannot escape no matter how hard they try. It keeps returning. Over and over. Like heaven refuses to let them forget it. They remember the way you looked at them. The way your energy softened around them. The way your presence made them feel safe even when they were emotionally chaotic. And suddenly they realized something devastating. You loved them in ways they were too wounded to recognize at the time. That realization shattered them. Because wounded people often destroy the very thing sent to heal them. And your soulmate is beginning to understand how much fear controlled their actions. But the night was not finished. Because while they were crying, another strange thing happened. A sentence entered their mind so clearly it felt spoken directly into their spirit. Go back. 3 simple words. But those words hit them like thunder. Go back. Not necessarily physically. Not immediately. But emotionally. Spiritually. Energetically. Go back to the truth. Go back to what mattered. Go back to the connection they tried to escape. And beloved, they froze when they heard those words in their spirit. Because deep down they already knew exactly what it meant. They tried to shake it off. They got out of bed. Walked around the room. Drank water. Looked at their phone. But your energy remained there, surrounding them like invisible fire. And for one dangerous moment, they almost reached out to you. Yes. They almost sent the message. Their fingers hovered over your name. Their heart pounding violently. Tears still falling. But fear stopped them at the last second. Fear of rejection. Fear of vulnerability. Fear that too much damage has already been done. And that fear is important for you to understand, because your soulmate has been carrying emotional guilt heavier than anyone realizes. They feel responsible for pain they never openly acknowledged. They feel ashamed for the times they acted emotionally unavailable. They feel confused by how powerful this connection became. And there is another truth they have not admitted to anyone. They compare everyone to you. Every conversation. Every interaction. Every attempt to move on emotionally. Something always feels missing. Because once a soul experiences a connection touched by divine energy, ordinary interactions begin to feel empty. That emptiness has been growing stronger lately. And last night it became unbearable. My beloved child, some tears are not signs of weakness. Some tears are the soul cleansing itself. Some tears arrive when a person finally reaches emotional honesty after running from truth for too long. And your soulmate's tears last night were sacred. Painful, yes. But sacred. Because heaven cannot rebuild what pride refuses to surrender. And last night, pride cracked. Not fully. Not permanently. But enough for truth to enter. Your soulmate finally admitted something to themselves they have denied for a very long time. They are still emotionally connected to you. Even if distance exists. Even if silence exists. Even if confusion exists. That connection never truly disappeared. And here is where this message becomes even more intense. Because while they were crying, you may have felt something too. Restlessness. Sudden sadness. A random emotional shift. An urge to think about them unexpectedly. That was not accidental. Souls connected deeply often feel each other across distance in ways human logic struggles to explain. And at 3 a.m., the emotional energy pouring from them became impossible for your spirit not to notice. But there is still something hidden beneath all of this. Something your soulmate has not fully revealed even to themselves. The tears were not caused by one single moment. They were triggered by a realization. A realization involving time. Because recently they have begun sensing that life is changing rapidly. Opportunities disappear. People drift apart. Doors close unexpectedly. And suddenly they became terrified of losing something irreplaceable. You. Not the version of you they casually assumed would always remain accessible. The real you. The soul they feel tied to. The person who changed them more deeply than they ever admitted. At 3 a.m., that fear became overwhelming. And for the first time in a long time, they allowed themselves to imagine what life might look like if they truly lost you forever. That vision broke them emotionally. Because despite everything, despite silence, distance, misunderstandings, emotional walls, confusion, pride, and fear, their heart still reaches for you when nobody is watching. Nobody knows this side of them. Nobody sees the vulnerability hidden beneath the surface. To the world they appear composed, controlled, fine. But heaven sees beyond appearances. And heaven watched them cry until exhaustion overtook them. Yet even after the tears slowed down, sleep did not come easily. Because another feeling entered the room. Regret. Deep regret. Not only about what happened between you, but about the person they became while trying to protect themselves emotionally. They now realize that fear turned them colder than they intended. Distance became easier than vulnerability. Avoidance became easier than honesty. And now they are standing emotionally at a crossroads they cannot ignore much longer. Because your soulmate is beginning to understand something life-changing. Love cannot survive where truth is constantly suppressed. And beloved, there is something else. Something they have told absolutely no one. Last night was not the first emotional breakdown. It was simply the strongest one. There have been smaller moments recently. Moments where your memory hit them unexpectedly. A song. A place. A phrase someone said. Even a scent in the air. Little things triggering emotions they tried desperately to control. But last night, the floodgates opened completely. And the reason heaven is revealing this to you now is because your spirit needs clarity. You have questioned yourself. Questioned the connection. Questioned whether your importance in their life was real. But heaven is telling you clearly tonight. You mattered far more than you realize. Far more. Your presence changed them. Your love exposed hidden wounds. Your energy awakened dormant emotions. And even though they resisted it, the impact remained inside them long after silence entered the connection. Now listen carefully because what I am about to reveal next is critical. There is someone around your soulmate influencing their fears. Not controlling them completely, but feeding their confusion. A voice constantly encouraging emotional avoidance. A voice telling them vulnerability is dangerous. A voice making them second-guess their heart. This person may appear supportive on the surface, but spiritually they carry energy rooted in fear, not wisdom. And after speaking with this person recently, your soulmate became even more emotionally conflicted. They tried convincing themselves to move on completely. Tried convincing themselves they were imagining the depth of this bond. But souls do not cry at 3 a.m. over imaginary connections. Souls do not break apart over something meaningless. And deep down, they know that. That is why the tears came. Because truth became impossible to silence any longer. Still, there is one final detail about last night that has not yet been revealed. Something happened near the end of their breakdown. Something small on the outside, but enormous spiritually. After crying for what felt like forever, your soulmate whispered a sentence into the darkness. A sentence so vulnerable they would deny it if anyone asked them directly. They whispered, "I miss them." Not casually. Not lightly. The words came from somewhere deep inside them. And when those words left their mouth, the energy in the room shifted immediately. Because spoken truth carries power. Especially when it comes from a guarded heart. They sat there afterward completely stunned by their own honesty. Almost as if hearing themselves say it out loud made the reality impossible to escape. And then, silence. Heavy silence. The kind of silence where a soul realizes life may never feel peaceful again until certain truths are faced. My beloved child, your soulmate is entering a season of emotional awakening whether they are prepared for it or not. The walls are weakening. The numbness is fading. The distractions are losing power. And emotions they buried are rising to the surface stronger than ever before. But do not misunderstand this message. This is not a fairy tale without struggle. The path ahead still contains uncertainty. Fear still grips them. Pride still fights for control. And there is a conversation approaching that may change everything between you. A conversation they are terrified to have. Because once certain truths are spoken aloud, nothing can return to the way it was before. That is why heaven brought you here tonight. To prepare your spirit. Because what unfolds next will reveal whether this connection can survive the weight of honesty, healing, and divine timing. And what your soulmate discovered shortly before sunrise, changed everything. When they finally looked at their phone one last time before trying to sleep, they saw something that made their entire body freeze. Something connected to you. Something they were never supposed to see at that exact moment. And the second it appeared in front of them, the tears started again. But this time, the emotion was different. Because suddenly they realized. They may already be running out of time.